Hey, good morning. Welcome to Who's Left This Week, the unapologetically progressive Sunday morning political news show for Indiana. Our opening theme is by Hoosier singer-songwriter Leslie Nuss, who I got to give a hug to yesterday. And my name is Scott Aaron Rogers. I'm broadcasting from Bloomington. So here on the 6-7 edition of the show, are the kids still doing that or they have moved on? Anyway, we've got a month's worth of news crammed into 7 short days, a whole lot of fire for a supposed ceasefire in the Middle East, GOP electeds, including Indiana Governor Mike Braun, letting their bigotry show, Hoosier Democrats choosing their Secretary of State nominee, and Google's new venture is riddled with bugs. Literally. All of that and so much more. But before we begin, you know the drill. This is an independent media project. We don't paywall content. We don't have billionaire benefactors. Only individuals like you keep this thing going. It is a foundational principle of Who's Left and the Progressive Indiana Network that we refuse to hide important information behind paywalls in the middle of a political crisis. So, please, if you find value in this work, go to progressiveindiana.net and subscribe at the paid level. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the whole year to help us build the infrastructure that will pop the right-wing media bubble in this state. And listen, if a paid subscription isn't in the cards for you right now, that's okay. You can still help out by liking and sharing on social media, commenting, leaving reviews, providing feedback, and forwarding our content to your people. You get us when you can. Mostly, we just want you here in this community of Hoosiers dedicated to making this state and its government work for all of us, not just the elite few. Please join us. Follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us and on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Who's Left. That is HOOSLEFT. Progressive Indiana Network's handle is the full spelled out name on most sites, but on Blue Sky and TikTok, it's PIN Indiana. Please help us grow with a follow wherever you are at. Now, let's welcome this week's panelists. We were expecting 2. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Brandon Clark is living in Xfinity hell. Our apologies. He will hopefully be here within the hour. But until that time, me and my good friend Samantha Douglas are going to carry this thing. Sam, welcome to the show. You are on mute, my dear.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And hey, it was so good to see you in person yesterday.
I know. Yes, at the convention. I wish under better circumstances.
Well, we'll
But
talk about the convention
yeah,
here, hopefully in about 35 minutes if we can stay
yeah,
on schedule. And to that, I'm going to go ahead and
yeah,
get started. We've got so much to talk about this week. It
yeah.
is crazy. Let us have a sip from the fire hose here together. And we'll start this week in Iran now. As I mentioned, there was a whole lot of firing going on in the Middle East, considering the parties are supposedly in the middle of a ceasefire. Somebody should tell Israel, who last Sunday seized territory in Lebanon, including the 1,000-year-old Beaufort Castle, and announced plans to strike Beirut. This was a step far even for President Trump, who
Yeah.
reportedly told Benjamin Netanyahu in an expletive-laden phone call, quote, "You're fucking crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your ass. Everybody hates you. Everybody hates Israel because of this." Heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point. Now, Israel wasn't alone in ignoring the supposed ceasefire. Throughout the week, U.S. forces bombed various Iranian military sites and an oil tanker, while the Islamic Republic lobbed missiles and drones at U.S. Gulf allies in Kuwait and Bahrain. Despite all of this, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told the House Foreign Affairs Committee Wednesday that the war is, quote, over. The same day, Congress issued the strongest rebuke of the conflict yet, with the House passing a war powers resolution with 4 Republicans joining all the Democrats in directing Trump to end hostilities. Sam, lot there. Thoughts? Hell of a ceasefire we've got going
I
on.
know. I just listen. I think that every single day I see this continue. And it's too like, we're in this weird season where it's like the words we thought we knew what they meant, we don't. apparently, because it's like there's nothing that they've said has aligned with their actions. Not a single thing. The strait is open, then the strait is not open. The strait is partially open. It is all the way open. It is now closed. We're having great talks with the with the Iranians. Oh, we're not having talks at all. We're gonna ceasefire. Oh, but we're just gonna bomb these few places. Like, it was just nothing has been consistent. It has been, I mean, unfortunately, in line with this whole administration, their actions thus far, especially this second term with Trump, this is just, it's bananas. I feel like we're in a a death circus. I want to say a circus, but like a circus is supposed to be entertaining and fun. This is not entertaining and fun. This is disgusting, actually.
I've always kind of circuses to be kind of morbid and disturbing themselves,
Yeah.
man. I don't know. Those elephants should be free. But no, it's really it's Orwellian. Like war is peace,
Yeah.
freedom is slavery,
Yes.
ceasefire means fire,
Yes.
patriotism means insurrection. It's bizarre, it's twisted, and we really are living in hell. And listen, we're here in Indiana not living in the same hell that people in Iran or in Kuwait or Bahrain or any of those places are in. Like, their lives are legitimately in danger.
Right.
We here in the United States, particularly here, in Indiana, kind of in the middle of
Hmm.
nowhere, as it were,
Yeah.
are very much far removed from the effects of this war. And we talk about this here all the
Hmm.
time. What affects us are the economic consequences of this war.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
this week was sort of like a soft deadline on June 1st. Was like, listen, if we don't get this thing resolved by this point, we might not see it right away. But by this fall, we're going to be seeing potential fuel shortages, potential food shortages, potential economic catastrophe that we haven't seen in this country in
Yeah.
80 odd years. I mean, we might be looking at a depression. I don't want to scare anybody, but
Yeah.
so this week, Mike Braun, our governor, put like a small Band-Aid on things, I guess,
Yeah.
and extended the fuel tax holiday, as it were, I guess, for another 30 days. Indiana has gone from having among the most high-priced fuel in the country to the lowest, but at a cost of about $140 million a month
A
in tax
month.
revenue. Yeah. Now, Sam, you're living in Indianapolis. I almost got swallowed by a pothole yesterday up there. I mean, like, how long can we afford to do this if we're giving up $140 million a month?
Well, they tout this big beautiful trophy that is our surplus. So maybe, hey,
Hello, sorry to be late.
Hey, no, listen. Props to your cable company for getting you back online sooner than we thought. Brandon Clark, everybody, good to see you, sir. We will get your thoughts on the Iran war in just a minute, Sam. But go ahead and finish what you were saying.
I was saying we tout this big beautiful trophy that is our surplus. So I don't know. Maybe they can do it for a while. But I think it's super disturbing to think about the fact, though, that we told people, early this year, late last year, we don't have the money for childcare. We don't have the money for any of that. But if our president wants to go waste money in a war, all of a sudden we have money to keep gas prices down so people will stay off of his head criticizing how he's spending money, in a way that does not feel like America first, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Brandon, you may have missed a little bit. We started off the show talking about the Iran war this week. Ceasefire means fire. Apparently, Rubio says the war is over as we're exchanging fire with Iran. Meanwhile, here in Indiana, we're dealing with the economic effects of this thing, which are only going to become more and more severe over the course of the summer. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's all weird when we talk about the Iran war. It's more like where to start with the critiques, right? The ceasefire, as far as that goes, it's weird how they're changing the definition. Like Trump is saying now, well, in Iran, a ceasefire is just when they fire less. That's just not a ceasefire. There's not a ceasefire. And then he's trying to say he's changing. It's not Operation Epic Fury anymore. It's something different. So now he doesn't have to get congressional approval, which he hasn't. It's been 70, 80 days now, has not went to to Congress one time for approval. There's actually been a war powers resolution that's passed. So like to the extent that he should go to Congress, he probably should, and he hasn't. And then just looking at the war, I mean, we've spent tens of billions. There's tens of billions more we're going to have to spend for what? The IAEA says Iran is more likely to nuclearize now than they were before the war, and 13 Americans are dead. That feels like it's not worth it to me. Like that's money that could have been better spent on like childcare, healthcare, housing, you know, problems that we're actually experiencing. But at least gas is more expensive.
Yeah, right. Well, and
At least
we will talk about. Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just saying at least, you know.
We got that out of it.
We got that.
We'll you know, put a pin in the child care. We're going to talk about that here a little bit later on in the second half of the show. But it's madness. And, you know, to your point, Brandon, you said that the House did pass a war powers resolution this week. Is the Senate going to do the same? We'll see. And even then, you know, the War Powers Act of 1973 is it's I don't know, a parchment barrier, as it were. I mean,
and if I could add,
what are you going to do? Sign off on that?
If I could add, even though it came out of the House, we should not give Republicans credit for it because Mike Johnson tried to fight like hell to not bring it to the floor. They tried to have people abstain to not have it pass. Luckily, there was, I think, 4 Republicans who defected, and that's the only reason this passed.
And hopefully we see more of that from, you know, these quote unquote concerned Republicans. They have an election coming up in November. You know, they know which way the wind's blowing. So hopefully we see more and more of these as the effects become more clearly known. Let us move on now. We talked about the Indiana angle of this all and Governor Mike Braun extending the gas tax. Braun was in the news for other reasons this week as well. This week, he declared June Nuclear Family Month in Indiana, defining the nuclear family as one husband, one wife, and any biological, adopted, or fostered children, and calling it, quote, God's design for the family structure. The proclamation's second section then, of course, quietly dropped the adopted and fostered children part, asserting that, quote, children living with their married biological parents have better physical and emotional well-being, without citing any evidence, of course. Several other Republican states have adopted this gimmick of declaring June Nuclear Family Month a not at all subtle shot across the bow at the LGBTQ community during Pride Month. Happy Pride, by the way, everybody. Much love. Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles took it a step further, though, posting on social media, quote, homosexuality has no place in America. Happy Nuclear Family Month, end quote. After blowback from members of his own party, including Ted Cruz, Ogles deleted the tweet and blamed it on a staffer. Now, Sam, Ted Cruz, Mike Lawler, several other Republicans pushed back on Ogles, got him to drop his tweet. Mm-hmm. Where's the pushback from Republicans against Mike Braun for this gimmick?
They're not going to. They are not going to push back on Braun. That's one. And then 2, I think I was interested. I was expecting you know, our LGBTQ plus community to push back. They should have posted pictures of their family. And I mean, especially since, you know, words have flexible meanings. It's like, oh, okay, happy nuclear family, and post the pictures of their families. That's what I would have done. I'm not gonna lie, because at this point, what does it matter? You're trying to like take this shot at Pride Month. It's weak, it's unnecessary, it's a waste of time when families are out here suffering and there's so many other things you could be doing, and you're taking a shot at people who just want to love who they want to love. Like it's insane. So I would have taken a jab right back and posted pictures of my family and been like, look at my nuclear family. You know, that's what I would have done.
Brandon, the folks who are celebrating, quote, Nuclear Family Month are submissive sycophants to a dude who has 5 kids with 3 different women and affairs with countless porn stars, models, and
period.
Not to mention what other things he may have done back in the 80s. Now, and on the other hand, like some of the most loving, committed, long-term couples I know are gay. Brandon, make it make sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the people saying it, I think it starts to make all the sense in the world. Andy Ogle, I don't know how much you guys know about Andy Ogles, but he also posted that if Mom Donnie won the election, there would be another 9/11. He goes with like Randy Fine on like, we should ban Muslims and we'll choose dogs. Or like he has a slew of things to say about all kinds of minority groups. As for like these attacks, it's weird to me how Christian nationalists want to be both. I call them cry bullies, right? Because they want to like put the boot on the neck of like minority groups while also acting like victims, because they do things like this, like, oh, we're going to make Pride Month about us. But imagine the response if like the LGBTQ community said, well, Sundays are gay day now or something, like from now on, every Sunday is Pride Day. Like Christians would be up in arms, right? But then they think that they can do this with no justification, because if you look at same-sex couple like families and households, they produce even if not better outcomes, because with adoption, right, there's a level of financial stability you have to be able to adopt that you don't have to have just to birth a child. So outcomes for children in same-sex couples are often better in terms of like education, health, things like that. So there's no basis for this sort of like discrimination anyway.
Yeah, you have to plan for it. There's no accidents when the LGBTQ community have kids. And you mentioned this cry bully thing, right? They act like they're the victims. They always say, "Oh, they're waving it in our face. Oh, they're shoving it down our throats." Some of these dudes, I think they want the LGBTQ community shoved down their throats, if you know what I'm saying.
Down their throats. That's a fact. You remember they were crashing, what was it, Grindr? They were crashing
wherever
Grindr.
Turning Point goes, wherever the RNC goes, Grindr crashes. That is not a coincidence.
You know, it's like, come on, y'all. It's okay. Embrace it. We're trying to create space for you.
And the whole time, these people are at odds with the Pope, who thinks Christian nationalism is bad. So it's like, do we believe the governor and stuff, or do we listen to the Pope? If you are like religious, it's almost like a no-brainer to me, I would think.
It is pathetic. It is sad. It would be funny if it didn't have serious consequences for people who are having their lives negatively affected by crap like this. So listen, we've been talking about the Christian nationalism aspect of all of this, and the attacks on the queer community comes from a place where these folks want to impose their religious beliefs on all of us. And one of the primary Christian nationalists in this country is self-styled Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. Now, a lot coming out of the DOD this week, just a stream of garbage. The Pentagon dropped roughly 180 faiths from their list of officially recognized religions. The DOD banned reporters from their press office, officially designating the room a sensitive compartmented information facility, or SCIF. Hegseth blocked at least 8 Navy captains from promotion to admiral, targeting 2 women, 2 black men, and 3 white men who, God forbid, apparently participated in previously in diversity-related events, some dating back decades. The resulting promotion list contains only 2 non-white officers out of 22 nominees, despite minorities making up 30% of the Navy, and 0 women appear on the list, despite women comprising 21% of the service. And yesterday in France, Hegseth used a D-Day anniversary speech to peddle in the white supremacist Great Replacement theory, comparing migrant arrivals by boat to the Nazi-occupied beaches stormed by Allied forces in 1944, saying, quote, "Beaches in Spain, in Italy, in Greece, and Bulgaria, boats and men arrive. When will European capitals do something about that invasion?" Gross. One bit of good news, however, on the DOD front this week, though, as federal appeals court ruled that Trump's transgender military ban is unconstitutional. That fight, however, is not over. Brandon, Hegseth literally used the anniversary of perhaps the Allies' most significant achievements against the Nazis to peddle neo-Nazi talking points. What the hell?
Yeah, he also attacked NATO. Great thing to do on D-Day. Kind of weird. I don't know. For me, the whole like Hegseth is really emblematic of how unserious these people are, because just 2 years ago, we had all these attacks on things like DEI about how identity can't be first. It has to be merit. And now it's like everything these people do is about identity. It's about loyalty, about your religion, about your politics. That's identity. Like, I don't even understand, because they misrepresent what DEI was when they talk about it. It's not like just find a black person and because they're black, give them a position, but then they're actually using that logic to be like, well, find someone loyal to Trump, Bill, which I'm sure we'll talk about, Bill Pulte, who has no qualifications to be D&I, but is loyal to Trump. So let's give him the position. RFK, what qualifications does he have, right? None. Loyal to Trump, let's give him the position. He dropped out so Trump could get more votes. So it's all about identity with these people who just 2 years ago told us it was all about merit, but now they have the most unqualified cabinet of all time doing this.
It is like they are a DEI cabinet, right? It's like they are chosen specifically for their identity as white.
What I would push back on, back on there, Scott, is none of them are qualified enough to be DEI hires.
That's a fact. No, that's a fact. You mean a former? Never mind. But they the guy who quoted Pulp Fiction is unserious. Like in talking, like it's like y'all. I mean that's the definition of this administration. Every time I see anything, RFK Jr. with changing the schedule of vaccines, who do these people think they are? Who do they think they are? Because that one of my favorite parts of the convention yesterday is when Josh Lowry said that we should have the confidence of mediocre white men. And it is just like, absolutely. Like, because over and over again, that's how I think and feel. I also too like watching him tee up all of these women who, again, I can't stand anyway, but teeing them up to take all of these falls for this administration just to replace them with more mediocre, unqualified white men. I'm so ready to be done with this. I'm ready to be done. It's like I went off this ride.
Not even halfway through the second administration, are we? But Brandon, back to you. Like we talked about the the in France part of this thing, but back here at home, they're banning reporters from the Pentagon. I don't know, man. These are the same people who profess their love for the Constitution and certainly their love for the Second Amendment. But what about the First Amendment?
Yeah, well, the problem is none of them have read the Constitution. They just know the Second Amendment, and that's like the one thing that they tout. That's a big problem. It's also weird that they're supposedly the most transparent administration of all time. They'll tell you that at every event.
They're the most translucent administration of all time.
It would be more proper, and then they do things like this, which is oddly in line with fascism. I'm just saying, for people who don't like being called fascist, they're doing a lot of things the fascists did.
Yeah, I mean, you just spoke to him hiring people who just agree with him rather than people who are qualified. You're being very fascist, friend. You're being very fascist. It's what it's giving.
Yeah.
Well, and Sam, yeah, the other part of the First Amendment also, like the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press. They don't like that. The freedom of religion part. They're not banning, but they're removing the vast majority of religions recognized officially by the Department of Defense. What's going on there?
And it's the fact that they use their fake love of Christianity to justify this is disgusting and frankly incorrect. But again, I feel like we started this show with the idea that words that we think we know what they mean, apparently we don't know what they mean. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. They're saying things that are supposed to sound right, and that if you clip it in a news article or in a headline on Fox News, it seems like it's right or okay. But then when you actually look at their actions, you're like, hold on, this is not the same. Nothing about this is communicating what you're talking about. And that's how this everything has felt with everything that's going on internationally, everything that they're doing here, the way that they continue to attack different groups of people is like, none of that. I'm actually a believer. I'm a Christian, and it's disgusting every single day that I wake up and watch somebody manipulate my religion to be used like this.
Yeah. These guys are doing a number on your branding.
Oh my God. Oh my, I know. It's tough. Like, you don't even want to say you're a Christian anymore. In truth, I've always practiced like in the way that I live my life more than how I talk about it. But even still, watching this is just like, no, and stop blaming it on the Bible. This is not the belief system. We believe in loving people and accepting them. And there is judgment to be made, that should be made by somebody with way higher power and way less flaws than us. So it's like that's at the crux of it. That's the problem. It's like ultimately we are called to love people. And this is not loving people. Not any part of this is loving people.
No, you got to say, oh no, I'm not that kind of Christian.
No.
And
Yeah.
moving on, Trump's nominee to be the new director of national intelligence, Bill Pulte, is like, oh no, I'm not that kind of spy chief. The kind that knows anything about intelligence. So this guy was the Federal Housing Finance Agency director. That's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. He has zero known intelligence background, to what Brandon was saying. And he replaces, or will replace, Tulsi Gabbard, who announced she's leaving at the end of June, like you said. All the women are taking the fall. According to MAGA strategist and podcaster Steve Bannon, this appointment is, quote, a middle finger to the Senate and a fuck you to the deep state. A retired 26-year CIA veteran called it a signal that the DNI will be, quote, fully weaponized in support of going after Trump's political enemies. The president seemed to confirm this, telling reporters Pulte, quote, may find out some things about the rigged elections, etc., openly stating the nation's top intelligence post will now be used to pursue Trump's election fraud conspiracies. Now, fortunately, it seems a fair number of Senate Republicans are skeptical, at least, with John Cornyn, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, Mitch McConnell, and Majority Leader John Thune all voicing various levels of
Oh,
Uh-oh.
we froze.
Oh, I can still see you though and hear
Yeah, I
you.
still
So,
see you.
oh, so it's on Scott's end. Dang.
Oh no. If only we had
Oh,
gotten through another line, we could have taken over. I don't know where we were. I don't want to go on without him.
I know. I know.
Hopefully he comes back soon. Let's see. Frozen in time. Is he? I wonder if it's just him for everybody else too.
I know. Oh no, Scott, come back. And he's the host, so like I don't think he can drop out and come back, right?
Yeah, no, I think it might end it if he does.
Oh shoot.
Oh, well, I guess
Oh, well,
we were
okay.
wrong. We stand
Okay.
corrected.
I mean, here's the case of another mediocre white man, though, coming in to save the day.
Yeah, that's
Doubt
what
he's gonna do that.
right. Yeah, no. I mean, it's all crazy. To your point about the women, I think it is weird. Like when it's just one or two, maybe you can say, coincidence, but it's like the only people dropping like flies are the women, which is like, maybe there's something to this.
The only diversity that he has was women. And he's kicking them to the curb too. I hope Republican women are watching this, and I hope they're equally disgusted. I mean, I
Yeah,
doubt it, but I
it's
hope so.
yeah, with what they let go in this administration, I doubt that this is the line. But it's weird that
No.
they were historically undiverse before all the women started dropping like flies, and now they're all getting like, it's not like any of them have been replaced by women either. So
None of them. None of them. None of them. I have been, part of me has been encouraged though that like if they are fighting this hard not to give us the full Epstein files, maybe just maybe there is something horrific that we can use against this man once we get through all of this. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something there. I don't know, but the way that they are doing all the things makes it definitely feel like there's some trouble in there.
There has to be, because I mean, they were so for it for so long, and then out of nowhere, it's just, we can't let this get out. We can't let anyone see it. And there's 3 million files they're trying to never let the public get a hold of. Like, seems to me there might be something there. I just hope that they don't do like a purge, deleting some files before they
I
leave the
know,
administration.
before they leave. Oh my God. You know, hey!
Sorry,
Yeah.
guys, I'm back. We had a power surge here, so everything went down just for a minute. The
Xfinity
motor
got
was
you
the last
too?
thing back up.
Did
He said
X-
Xfinity got
yeah, they
you
got
too.
you too, huh?
Well, that's not my ISP, but yeah, they certainly got me. So sorry about that, everybody. Where were we?
We were on
We were
Bill
talking about Bill
Pulte.
Pulte.
Yeah.
All right. What did I miss? Did y'all keep going on that?
We
Sorry,
did.
everybody.
Yes.
We
Okay.
did.
Well,
But there was one thing that I thought about while you were talking. I was hoping, so we are seeing them exploit a lot of loopholes and gray areas in like appointing and things like even even in our laws and stuff, that I hope that we are paying attention to and documenting so that we can close so this never happens again. Like when appointments come through, obviously we need stronger processes to ensure that people that are grossly unqualified like this aren't even in the running. Like this, it can't just be a process of, you know, the president and their cronies just get to choose whoever it is, regardless of whether that's beneficial for Democrats or not. I think it's just wrong, period. There should be some kind of set of qualifications. Like they should have to know something about what it is that they're going into an office for.
can you imagine that? Like lowest bar. The bar is in hell, right?
The bar is in hell.
we talked about the election conspiracy angle of what Pulte is up to there. Like that is probably specifically why he is being put in charge, is to potentially rig these elections in November. So I want to talk about elections, which hopefully will be free and fair, God willing. And let's start with the Indiana electoral angle of this all. And let's see, where are we? Finding my place again after coming back up here. So in Indiana, far-right Republican state Senate candidate Paula Copenhaver is still trying to contest her 3-vote primary loss to incumbent Spencer Deary, looking to invalidate votes based on voters' Facebook posts and newspaper interviews, arguing their public comments prove they voted illegally as crossover Democrats in the Republican primary. The law she's invoking is so obscure that elections experts, advocates, and even the Secretary of State's office say they've rarely or never seen it enforced. Another far-right Republican is laying the ground to challenge nominal moderate Senate President pro tem Rod Bray for leadership after November's midterm election. Floor leader Chris Garton resigned his leadership post Thursday and is likely to challenge Bray for control of the caucus. But the biggest development in Indiana electoral politics this week is on the Democratic side, where at yesterday's state convention, party delegates selected legacy candidate Beau Bayh as their nominee for Secretary of State by a 61-39 margin. Bayh touted name recognition and a massive fundraising haul, much of it from questionable big dollar donors, as keys to his electability. Convention chair Robin Winston begged for party unity after a contentious campaign, saying repeatedly, quote, "We are more alike than we are unalike," and quote, "Our job and our fight is not in this room." Brandon, your thoughts on the Indiana of it all?
Yeah, it's weird because, and when I say this, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about Beau. There's something to the idea of electability, right? Like a candidate needs to be electable in the region he's running in. The problem is that it seems that when people try to work this out, the however they compute it is just backwards, because Beau Bayh is not what's electable for Democrats anywhere anymore, right? Like you would think, seeing where Democrats are succeeding across the country, you would want to try to replicate that. And where across the country do we have a Beau Bayh or whatever running on saying the things he's saying, getting the money he's getting. It's not that, right? It's people talking about the things that Blythe was talking about, right? Who I thought was a much better candidate. I was going to talk to her, never got to, which I'm sad about. But I do think she was a much better candidate. And it's weird, I guess, in Indiana when we're so dominated by like blue dog Democrats who are really just like conservatives that are maybe a little better on social issues. Like his dad, was it Evan, I think, right? Was one of the senators during Obama's tenure that was like pro-life, that was against universal health care, that like stopped Obama from doing a lot of things that we could have got done with the 60-seat majority. And look at what we're doing now. We're electing more Democrats that are like him. It just seems like a mistake to me.
Sam, your thoughts?
That's so one, I just want to highlight that every time I think of Chris Garden, I think of two things. I think of the AI photos that he put up of him body slamming Santa Claus. So,
As one does.
okay. And then the second thing I immediately think of is remember when he, during the redistricting conversations, and he was like, they say it's you're damn right, it's personal. And then he went right back to reading a statement. It is some of the most fake, performative, ridiculous nonsense that I've seen. So I just wanted to put that out there for people that this is a very unserious person, a very unserious Trumper person. So just, whatever, do what you will with that information. Now,
That
for
guy's got serious roid rage, it looks like.
oh my God, he's out of control. And we went to the state house with a bunch of Black people. He lied to us in that room. Like it was a lot. It's been a lot with Chris Garden. But when it comes to Beau and Blythe, so I went into a deep dive on my thoughts and perspectives on this on our last episode of the Black Briefing. The Bars in Hell, as a matter of fact, is the title. But I think Brandon is absolutely right. We talk about electability, but it is not the time. At a point in time, yes, he would have been the candidate for us. But unfortunately, I think they're so busy trying to chase Republican and moderate voters that they are going to lose their progressives within our base. So all of the votes they think they can count on, you cannot count on. I've already seen several people talking about how I think they're going to vote for Ballard. It's something I would consider unless I hear like way better things coming from Beau. Like it's just because I need my vote to mean something. And when I look at this race, one of the things that I could at least say that a Ballard vote could do is start to bring some kind of justification for a third party in our state. I think we need multiple parties. I think it's healthy for the system. And I think that if the Democrat Party doesn't start to embrace our progressives, and I'm using this term loosely, it's just kind of how we started to identify ourselves. But if the Democrat Party doesn't start to embrace this group of folks, then you're going to continue to create this divide. And yes, not only will we may look the same in platform, but in actual voting decisions, we will look very different. And that's a problem. We need to either, because that was another annoying thing, is like you kept hearing these calls to unity, calls to unity, calls to unity, but you guys do not practice that at all. So when you get criticism from people within your party, when people are calling out the things that don't make sense, like how you're calling out Micah Beckwith's comments and how, oh, we don't care who you pray to, blah blah, and then immediately go into a Christian prayer. It is just, all of that is just so hypocritical, and there's so many people that are just within our party that are sick of it. And if we don't start to embrace those folks, make changes that can serve us well in the future, we are going to continue to see this divide, and Republicans are going to continue to win, because regardless of whatever issues they got going on their side, you can bet your bottom dollar whoever comes out of their convention, they're going to support, they're going to fall in line for the most part. And so we have to be more strategic than this. We have to actually practice unity and in being inclusive.
Yeah, vote blue no matter who only ever seems to go one way. But I'm glad you mentioned the Republicans and their convention 2 weeks from yesterday in Fort Wayne, by the way. And we all know damn well they're going to throw little Diego overboard and select Jim Banks staffer Max Engling. And Engling's a blank slate. We don't really know much about him. Diego Morales has been flagrantly corrupt while in office. Now, what's going to happen if they throw the corrupt Diego overboard? Then the Democrats are going to be stuck running the pro-corruption candidate in this race. Because if you look at Beau Bayh's father, Evan, guilty of self-dealing while in office. This is a man who, to your point about stifling progressive developments during the Obamacare debates, was one of the people who made sure we didn't get a public option while his wife was sitting on the board at Anthem. During his last year in the Senate, he worked to get regulations rescinded for oil companies. He worked to keep private equity loopholes in place, and then went to go sit on the board of an oil company and has spent the last years working for Leon friggin' Black's private equity company, Leon Black, he of many appearances in the Epstein files, mind you. I don't know what Beau Bayh stands for. I haven't heard him reject his father's policies or the self-dealing. All I see is platitudes and, quote, electability, and I frankly don't see it. So to what you said, Samantha, and I'm glad you said it, and again, it's at this time, I don't know if Ballard's got the signatures yet, so we don't know how this thing's actually going to turn out. But if I'm looking right now, yeah, I'm going to vote for Ballard in that race, because I don't see how he and Bayh would administer that office different. And it is just an administrative office. We know the Republicans are going to collude with Trump to do things, especially with the voter rolls. I don't think Ballard would do that. I don't think Ballard and Bayh would administer that office any differently, but voting for one of them involves me putting my rubber stamp on the direction of the Indiana Democratic Party for another generation, and one of them is a 4-year placeholder. Brandon, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's weird. I don't follow that kind of this. I haven't followed this election maybe as much as I should to know the differences, the innate differences between Bayh and Ballard or whoever's going to be running. I typically lean towards supporting Democrats over Republicans, because Republicans tend to just give in to Trump a lot easier, where you can at least pressure Democrats, though it seems that a lot of people seem to think Bayh would just go that way too. What scares me about it more than anything is this kind of trying to pull from the center approach, what it speaks for Democrats more largely, because I don't think it's ever worked. And I think too many people kind of look back on Obama and get the wrong ideas from his presidency, because he was able to win Indiana. He was able to win these conservative areas, but it's he wasn't necessarily running in the middle, especially when he first was running. He was running on universal health care and stuff, right? He won that more so because of the moment, what it represented, right? The first Black president. So and then if you look back at Clinton, right, that's, I think, the other example of Democrats pulling from the middle. Clinton kind of won more so because Perot took more from Bush than him, and then he had the incumbency advantage in his second one. So if you look at pulling from the center, we have Hillary Clinton, right? Well, we have John Kerry in 2004, did not work. Hillary Clinton in 2016 gave way to Trump. Biden won more in 2020 because of workers than pulling from the middle. He had a strong labor base. And then in 2024, Kamala tried to pull from the middle and lost. So it seems like a losing strategy for Democrats. We can't conservative light our way to victory. So it scares me that we're moving away from candidates like Blythe, who represent, I think, what is the right path forward for Democrats.
It's about pulling in the disaffected voters. You're not going to get those, well-to-do Republicans who find their party's stuff distasteful. There are just not enough of them.
The Liz Cheney voters, yeah.
Yeah, Sam, we're already, I'm going to come right to you, but we're already being shamed into, quote, falling in line, right? And listen, I'm going to work to get Democrats elected on 99% of seats, all the way down ballot, all the way up the ballot, except for that one. Listen, to paraphrase Meatloaf, I will do anything to help Democrats win in November, but I won't do that.
And I was about to say this. So I saw the post last night where people, the fall in line post, the calls to unity, while we were still in the room. Like, they're not even giving these humans who have worked so hard over the last several months to bring a candidate that they actually believe in on the ballot, and you won't even give us a pause. Like, you don't even care enough or think enough of us to give us just a brief pause of disappointment before you start trying to shove unity down our throats, or shove this fall in line mentality down our throats. But I'll say this too. I was very disappointed that the split wasn't at least closer. Like that 60-40, ish split. It was very disappointing because I felt like we needed to get close enough where they understood that, oh, what we're doing is not speaking to almost half of these people. You know what I mean? But I don't think they're going to see a 60-40 split that way. I think they're going to see it as, oh, it's working. Let's just keep chugging along. And his whole campaign team is Hogsett's campaign team. It's just, it's nothing about this says that it's going to serve us well. And nothing about him tells me that he's going to be any better than Ballard. I'm not going to hold you. And so I think even the fact that Ballard has, started to create his own party. Was it Lincoln? The Lincoln Party?
The
Is that what it
Lincoln
is?
Party. Yeah.
Even suggests that he's presenting himself as something other than Republican. And in knowing, the way that he governed our city, it's likely not more right. It's likely less right. Right. And so I don't. I think there needs to be one of the things we don't take away, because you mentioned Obama. One of the things we never take away from his campaign is the incredible grassroots organizing that was going on and that's not going on currently. That's one of the things that we need to take from his campaign, which we don't. And so because we don't have that, I think Beau, I don't think he realized he needed to do this, because I don't think he sees Ballard as a threat. But I think it's a threat in a way that it pulls away votes from you that you can't afford to lose. So I think he needs to define himself, like in how he would be different, how an administration would be different. And it can't be just Democrat buzzwords and things like, it can't just be those things. Oh, well, I'm gonna protect our rights and protect elections and blah blah blah. You bet your bottom dollar Ballard's gonna be saying all of those things too. I want to know specifically what makes you different. Why? What will make me sleep at night after voting for you? Like, for real, because I think that's the challenge with the vote blue. No matter what, in truth, it has not been serving us well. It has not been serving us well. And more importantly, the foundational problems that we have in the Democrat Party across our state, they will not get addressed until we ring the alarm that something is wrong. And for some crazy reason, the alarm has been going off to us, but it's still not going off up here. And, do they have capacity for it to go off? I don't know. But I think us pulling away from Beau would definitely start to ring an alarm. And I think it has place. And I seen a post say that, don't tell me you care about like diversity and stuff like that in your or marginalized communities, and you're planning on voting, not voting blue for this seat. And I was like, how disgusting is that? That's not what that means. We do not have to 100% align. The same way you tell us that candidates don't have to 100% align with our values for us to vote for them, we don't have to 100% align with you or every single vote to still be a Democrat and to still belong in this party. Like, I think that's ridiculous. It's hypocritical, and it's nasty that we continue to do this to each other. We say we're the ones pulling away, but in actuality, you all are the ones that don't embrace the change and the legitimate criticism coming from within your party that could help get us to a better place.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. I'm glad you said all those things. Listen, sometimes progress is not a straight line. You can't just keep pushing forward and going the same direction that you're going and think it's going to get you through. Sometimes you have to take steps backwards. Sometimes you have to take a step sideways to ultimately get where you want to go. So listen, I could keep talking about this all day, but let's talk about other elections. There were many in several states this week. But first, the Supreme Court, I wanted to mention this, allowed Alabama to use an intentionally racially discriminatory map in this year's elections. They've got special primaries coming up in August after they hurriedly redrew their maps. This is seemingly in contradiction of their own recent ruling that gerrymandering was permitting on partisan but not racial lines. This court just makes things up as they go. Anyway, but Tuesday, 6 states held primaries. In New Jersey, progressive Dr. Adam Hamawi won a crowded election in the 12th congressional district. In Iowa, the establishment pick Josh Turek won his primary for the U.S. Senate. Former Interior Secretary Deb Haaland won the Democratic gubernatorial primary in New Mexico. Hard-right candidates crushed moderates in Montana's GOP primaries, but the biggest prize of the night was in California, where tech billionaires have spent billions of dollars to influence races up and down the ballot. At the top of the ticket, 60-plus candidates look to succeed term-limited Governor Gavin Newsom, with former HHS Secretary Javier Becerra advancing to the November general in a top-2 jungle primary. His opponent is not yet known, though Republican Steve Hilton is currently in that number 2 spot. Democratic billionaire Tom Steyer could still potentially overtake him as California takes a long time to count their votes. That delay, which is totally normal, mind you, has led to Trump's U.S. attorney to open multiple election fraud investigations into California's primary and send a prosecutor to the L.A. County Ballot Tabulation Center. This, of course, triggered by Trump's baseless claims that Democrats are, quote, rigging the count, as late mail ballots tend to favor Democratic candidates. Sam, I know we've only got a couple minutes before you've got to dip, but I want your thoughts on Tuesday's primaries.
Again, okay, the middle is not going to save us. The moderates are not going to save us. It's just not where we're at. Like I need Democrat. I need you to read the fucking room. Okay, please look around. Look around. Don't just stay in here and don't just stay in echo chambers. Look around you. Look at the movements. You know, again, you brought up Barack earlier and you were talking about how the policies early on and how that pushed them through, but also it was the idea of hope, of change, right? Those were huge. It's like we had been through these wars with Bush. We had done all of this. It's like we need change. We need something different. We need to believe in something again. And unfortunately, these middle of the road candidates are just not exciting to Democrats. And they're definitely not going to mobilize people who aren't voting. So we really I can't say that enough. When it comes to all of the other things, that Trump continuing to make up things challenge, every time I look at him, I have 4 boys, and every time I see this stuff, I just think of like, where's your mama at? And what did she teach you? Because it feels like we're dealing with children. It feels like we're dealing with children. Like, what are you doing right now? And why? And why are you wasting time on this? And why do you care? Like, it's not even good strategy. It's not even good strategy. It's not going to serve them well. I think about even redistricting here, like in several of these states, they are splitting these maps in ways that could be dangerous for themselves. Now, maybe it won't change in this first election, but you get two terms from now, and it does. Like, our country is becoming more and more diverse, and it's more and more spread out. This is not going to serve you all well in the future. I think it's sick. And I wish conservatives would wake up. Conservatives within the Republican Party. It's crazy that we have to say that now, because Trump is clearly not a conservative. He is not a conservative. I can't say that enough. He's not a conservative. And so it's
all the conservatives are Democrats now. Yes.
He's like, he's not with you. So it's like, we need Republicans. There's a book that was talking about, like, every single time this kind of leadership was overthrown, it always came from the inside. We need these Republicans to wake up and realize that, this is not going to serve you all well. Like, I know that he got, the backwoods folks to come out in droves, but now we got to get serious. This is starting to cost too much. I mean, and for us, I feel like that line was met very quickly, but I struggle with them at finding, like, do you have a line? I remember Brandon was earlier was talking about, like, clearly that isn't line, but it's like, do you have a line? And if you don't, are we talking about a cult? Like, what are we like? There has to be a line, right? There has to be a line. And I wish I heard more Republicans talking about that. I wish I heard more of them holding each other accountable the way that we are, because we're stepping up and holding our own accountable. Step up and hold yours accountable. Sorry.
100%. And, they're going to get that wake up call, I think, Sam, because to what you said about the Alabama of it all, there could be a dummy mander effect where they
Yes.
draw these lines thinking it's going to go a certain way. Turnout comes in. It could sweep out more than they thought they were going to pick up. I know you've got to run, but
Yes.
before you do, please tell the folks where they can find you and how they can check out the Black Briefing.
Yeah, so I am Samantha Douglas on Facebook. I'm most active on there. I know I'm old. On TikTok,
Same girl.
you can also find me. Yeah, and then on Instagram, I'm at LHL Sam. You can also watch me on Wild Styles podcast. It's great. It's a good time. At the Black Briefing on YouTube is what is most recent anyway. We do have an interview coming up, and we have another episode coming up, and as we get closer to November and these municipal elections next year, I need y'all to know these people and make good decisions. Okay, we're making good decisions next year, Indy. So yeah, please check us out.
Very good. Thank you so much, Sam. The brilliant Samantha Douglas, ladies and gentlemen, please check out the Black Briefing on YouTube. Find
Thank
her
y'all. See
online.
y'all.
Appreciate you very much.
Nice to meet you, Sam.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Just us blokes for the rest of the show here. Me and Brandon going to take y'all home here. So, Brandon, I guess before we move on, and I'm going to just check my timing here, see where we're sitting at. Yes, let us talk about next week's elections really quick. We've got a primary coming up in Maine. Now, this one is all but decided on the Democratic side. Democrats really trying to overthrow the very concerned Susan Collins, who has been there what seems like forever. If the Democrats are going to take the Senate, they've got to win this seat. Now, Graham Platner, the progressive oyster farmer, who is rough around the edges, to say the least, very popular, it's proving, in Maine. Most people are rough around the edges, it turns out. The 78-year-old governor of Maine, Democrat Janet Mills, suspended her campaign several weeks ago, all but guaranteeing Platner will win. Well, here we are, a week out from the primary. Here come the hit jobs this week. Earlier this week, it was it was reported. Sorry, I lost my place when I when I got kicked out here. I got to find my spot all again.
No worries.
There we are. So, yes. Anyway, Platner, earlier this week, it was reported that he had engaged in some extramarital sexting in the first year of his marriage. This was reported to his previous campaign manager by his wife. She's since left and given this news to a reporter. Then later in the week in the New York Times, they published accounts from some former girlfriends describing him as volatile, emotionally difficult, and at times toxic. Brandon, is this stuff going to matter come Tuesday and especially come November?
Okay, so no, I don't think it'll matter. I do feel like there's a lot I want to say about the Platner stuff. Some of it's going to be pretty unpopular. I know a lot of progressives really like Platner. Policy-wise, I really agree with them. I do have to admit, I'm kind of off the Platner train. I spoke about this on my channel a few days ago. To me, I think pattern of behavior is really important. And there's just been like maybe one too many oopsies from Platner for me for a bit of discomfort. I think that, not to say that he shouldn't be the nominee. I think he has great policy. I think that obviously that should be first and foremost, but I do think some questions need to be asked. And to me, I haven't gotten the answers from him that I would like. That's not to say that he couldn't, there's like our tent's not big enough for a Platner, especially somebody who's so right on policy. I also think the MAGA critiques are kind of weird though, given that all the allegations against Trump that they pushed to the side, like the actual being found in court to have sexually assaulted a woman. And then they're just like, well, one woman says that Platner was mean to her, so now like we have to disqualify him. For me, the biggest concern stuff isn't even like that. I don't think that report is, it's like, it's concerning, but it's not like the biggest deal. For me, it's like the tattoo and stuff. Like, I do think that there is genuine concern that maybe he could be anti-Semitic. And I think he should do more diligence to answer that concern to people, because that's going to be the big thing, I think, going into the general, more so than like one person said he was a bad boyfriend.
Oh my God, AIPAC is going to throw bags at this dude.
That's
for
what
sure.
I'm saying.
But
and I think that's
they were going to throw bags at this anyway, right? I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Susan Collins, for sure, it very much in the give Israel everything they want camp. You know, I don't know, Brandon. It's like with all these guys, we have to remember. I've seen some folks here out on the progressive left with us that are just like gaga for Platner, whether or not any of this stuff came out or not. They're calling this a hit job and they're trying to smear him, and he's still our guy. With any politician, do not fall in love with them. They are all tools. And sometimes you use an imperfect tool if that's the only tool you got. You know, just like we were talking about in Indiana on the Democratic side, some folks are just like in love with their preferred tool. You know, well, sometimes another tool is going to do the job just the same. It'll get you by for a while, and you don't have to make a long-term sacrifice. So with any of these people, I say, don't fall in love. Make an informed decision and hold whoever you pick accountable going forward. We are at the top of the hour, and as such, Brandon, I want to take 45 seconds here and play a public service video for our friends down at Crossroad Commons in Washington County. They've got an important deadline coming up in 1 month, and if folks can help them meet their goals, I would really appreciate that. We will be back in 45 seconds.
Crossroads Commons in Salem, Indiana, headquartered in a historic Salem home, is holding a fundraiser to expand via the purchase of the 3/4-acre lot of land adjacent to their facility. Please consider donating or spread the word so that they can further expand their services to the community. Scan the QR code on your screen for a direct link to the donation page and help us buy the grass.
All right. Very good stuff from our folks down there in Salem. Renee and company doing great work. So, listen, let's move on. And, Can
I say one thing real quick before we go on about Platner?
Go ahead.
I do want to stress, I do think the worst progressive is still better than the best Republican. So like, I don't want it to seem like I'm saying like, don't vote for Platner. Zeke, one of my subscribers is in the comment. I agree with him. I think any politician that's going to get us closer to universal health care is a win in my opinion. I just think we should police our party. I don't think we should be like Trumpian about it necessarily.
100%. I agree. And to your point, one of the things you said earlier, the stuff that Trump and his folks have done. But whatever you think about Platner, the sexting or the toxic behavior in his relationships, he was involved with consenting adult women, unlike the president of the United States, allegedly, who was seen millions of times in the Epstein files. Now, this week, former Attorney General Pam Bondi testified before Congress, throwing Todd Blanche under the bus. The timing not great for Todd. Trump just announced his nomination to be the permanent Attorney General the day before. Bondi told Congress that Blanche, quote, supervised the entire process of releasing the Epstein files, repeatedly deflecting responsibility for the botched, delayed, and incomplete redactions onto her likely successor. Now, this appearance for the record, was not under oath. The House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer downgraded it from a deposition to a voluntary transcribed interview after she was fired, so she faces no legal consequences for incomplete or untruthful answers. She invoked privilege often on all of her conversations with the president. She did acknowledge the DOJ improperly released victim names and identifying information. She said that Ghislaine Maxwell should die in prison, that she was, quote, a monster, just like Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Blanche has said the DOJ is no longer investigating Epstein or his associates, while more than a dozen survivors say neither he nor Bondi has ever contacted them. The House Oversight Committee did, however, refer former Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine and celebrity hairstylist Frederick Fekkai to the DOJ for criminal prosecution after Epstein's former assistant Sarah Kellen accused both of those men of sexually assaulting her in separate incidents more than 20 years ago. She testified a couple weeks ago. Brandon, the Epstein of this all, I feel like we don't talk about this enough because there's just so much else going on. Now, I don't subscribe to the conspiracy that, like, oh, everything is a distraction from the Epstein files, but flooding the zone definitely helps deflect one's attention from everything else going on.
Yeah, I don't buy into the conspiracy that it's deflection from the Epstein files. I think more so their incompetence just aids them in this way. Like, they're really bad at their job. So there's so much to talk about that it's hard to focus on any one thing. Like, I think that, like, we just bombed I won't spend too much time on this, but we just bombed shipwreck survivors in the water a couple weeks ago or 2 months ago. And like, nobody even talks about that anymore. Like, for instance, right? So like, things just get glossed over in this administration. The Epstein files is one of them. And it's weird to me, especially given like the president of the United States is mentioned more in these files than Harry Potter is in Harry Potter. Like, he has dozens of allegations against him that have not been checked in these files, as well as like people in his cabinet who have been revealed to have lied about their connections with Epstein. And nothing's happening from any of this. Instead, they're proudly boasting that the investigation is over. Todd Blanche, knowingly holding 3 million more files that none of us have ever seen, is saying we're not releasing anything more after promising to bring justice for survivors that now say they can't even get an answer from the DOJ. So there's like so much here that it's hard, even within the Epstein kind of talk, to know what part to talk about. Do we talk about Trump's allegations? Do we talk about covering up 3 million files? Do we talk about the fact that, sure, you said two people have been recommended. This is the largest pedophile ring we've ever uncovered. No one's been convicted yet. This thing has been out for a year or so, and we have like 2 people who have been recommended now. Like, it's just every part of this has been either mishandled or corrupted in some way.
Yeah, we got Ghislaine Maxwell in prison, and if you believe the discussions, she's going to get pardoned at some point. You know it's coming, and that is disgusting. If that ever happens, I hope people take to the streets.
And that's actually another good point I didn't even really think about. The only person in jail for the largest pedophile ring ever uncovered, full of rich, powerful men, is a woman.
100%.
That's just crazy.
And the corruption continues, the cover-up continues. Fun story. Trump appointed Ben Black this week. This is the son of Apollo Global Management founder Leon Black, Evan Bayh's old boss, to run the U.S. government's largest overseas investment firm with a $205 billion lending cap. This is the son, like I said, of Leon Black. Trump has now appointed at least 4 men with known Epstein ties for federal office, including Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who sits on the Development Finance Corporation board alongside Black now. And again, the corruption continues apace, and I want to focus on that here for a little bit now. So corrupt, even Mike Pence is calling things corrupt. The former Indiana governor and former vice president called it deeply offensive and totally unacceptable that the Trump administration was considering this $1.8 billion slush fund for January 6th rioters and other, quote, victims of government weaponization, right? Well, I don't know. I don't think it was Pence that pushed folks over the top, or more of the potential electoral consequences in November, where Senate Republicans pushed back against this thing. Well, apparently this week, the opposition was enough such that the anti-weaponization fund is now dead, with Attorney General nominee Todd Blanche telling a House hearing on Tuesday, quote, "We are not moving forward with the fund, period." This fund, created 2 weeks ago as part of Trump's IRS lawsuit settlement, was frozen by a federal judge, lambasted by both parties, and became a legislative grenade that threatened to blow up key White House priorities. However, it is still unresolved as to whether they're scrapping the fund means also walking back the IRS settlement provision, which permanently shielded Trump and his family from any current or future tax audits. Now, with that weaponization fund thing out of the way, the Senate did begin voting on funding ICE enforcement. That was getting in the way of that part of that bill. They've put that to the side to debate giving ICE $70 billion in funding, which they don't need. And finally, an Indiana angle to the Trump corruption, the president issuing a pardon to former Indiana Republican Congressman Stephen Buyer, who served nearly 2 years in prison for insider trading on a $26.5 billion T-Mobile Sprint merger and a separate acquisition deal, crimes he was convicted for committing as a lobbyist after leaving office. Buyer served Indiana's 5th, then 4th district over an 18-year career in Congress. Brandon, just a miasma of corruption. Where do you even begin? It's something new every week in this regard. The Buyer is just the latest in a series of pardons Trump has given to folks who committed financial crimes. You look at the weaponization and the tax audit angle there. Will we ever know the extent of Trump and his family's financial crimes?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to know where to start with this amalgamation of corruption because it's both offensive and defensive, right? Like they're hand-waving investigations into people like Tom Homan, who's on camera taking a bribe. And then they're also giving January 6ers money. They're getting Trump stuff hand-waved. It's weird to know where to hone in. With the fund, the anti-weaponization fund, it's kind of weird that they wanted this to be seen as some nonpartisan thing that anyone could benefit from, yet it sunsets when Trump leaves office. It ends. He chooses all the commissioners, and it's completely anonymous. Obviously, this is just a scheme to enrich in his own cronies. You have Trump, who is already enriching himself billions of dollars using his office. And this is from the same people who were 10% for the big guy, who just tried to impeach Biden 20 times over emails and then said oh, this email proves fraud. And then it just proved that he bought Hunter a car or something but now we have Trump saying hey, if you buy my crypto, I'll give you access to me in private dinners and I'll pardon you and this and this. And MAGA has nothing to say. It really shows how flimsy our standard of ethics are in government and how those need to be tightened. Trump is really showing that, I think, that corruption is easy.
And that kind of corrupt leadership at the top, it percolates down. We've seen it down here in Indiana at the state level, right? In Diego Morales' office, Secretary of State. This week, we found out his office paid $90,000 from Indiana's Securities Restitution Fund, which is meant to compensate fraud victims, to Maverick Quantum, a Texas AI software company whose CEO has donated $55,000 to Morales' campaign and $20,000 to Mike Braun's. This contract was awarded without competitive bidding. The payment appears to be the only vendor disbursement from the restitution fund since at least 2020, with every other payment during that period going to, actual fraud victims. 2 months after Morales pledged fiscal restraint and virtually flat staffing to the state budget committee. His office quietly approved nearly $500,000 in raises for employees, while other state employees received no raises. This included massive raises for two of his senior staffers, his campaign manager and chief of staff, who later became the center of a non-citizen voter registration controversy. You know, it's... Brandon, I don't think you're old enough to remember those 1980s like anti-drug commercials, but
back in my youth, yeah.
The dad finds the box of whatever under his kid's bed, and he's like, "Where did you learn how to do this?" And the kid says, "I learned it by watching you." All right, and I'm imagining little Diego looking up at Trump saying, "I learned it by watching you, Dad."
And I mean, they did, because they just did this with Kristi Noem and her husband, giving him a bunch of lucrative deals before she quietly bowed out of the spotlight as well. And it's weird too that like these are, again, it's the same party who was just all up in arms about Hunter Biden and Burisma. Like, how dare he be on this board, even though he had worked on other boards before? How dare Hunter Biden be on this board? And now it's like Trump's kids, for instance, he invested in, I think it's Dell, and then Trump signs a big deal with them right after Jared Kushner gets invested. He's invested in companies tied to Saudi Arabia as the Middle East war is going on. And like, nobody has anything to say about any of this stuff, because corruption is only real when you can blame it on brown people or Democrats, I guess, if you ask MAGA.
If you throw enough corruption at the wall, right, a whole lot of it's going to stick. And a whole lot of it seems to be sticking here in this administration for sure. We just talked about Diego Morales. We've previously talked about Mike Braun here. Let's talk about one of Indiana's other three-headed monsters at the top of our government, and that's Attorney General Todd Rokita, who is gearing up to enforce a new state law effective July 1st that bans employers from knowingly hiring unauthorized workers, and gives his office to seek power to seek court-ordered suspension or permanent revocation of businesses' operating licenses if they do so. Now, he says he'll prioritize tips from ICE, the Department of Labor, and local law enforcement, but will also screen out complaints that appear to be competitors ratting out each other for business reasons. Very interesting. Now, you know who won't actually pay severe prices? These businesses won't pay real severe prices for their illegal acts of hiring undocumented workers. Who is going to pay are the workers and other people like them. Now, we also saw this week that in Indiana, at the state prison up in Michigan City, there have been more catastrophic fires. WTHR in Indianapolis has been all over this story. I'll link it in the show notes, but they're going to have to spend some $4.6 million on new mattresses there because several inmates have been burnt alive. Very, very disturbing stuff up there. And speaking of disturbing conditions in prisons, I want to move over to Delaney Hall in New Jersey. We've seen these massive protests over unsafe conditions in that ICE detention center at Delaney Hall there. There's a labor strike and a hunger strike going on now, near unanimous among the detainees there in that facility. It's really hitting the Geo group where it counts. One of the ways this company makes monies in these private prisons is by making the detainees do all of the work in the facility for what are essentially slave wages. We're talking like $4 a day for the highest paid employees there. And folks are upset at Democratic New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill facing outrage from her own supporters over her handling of the Delaney Hall controversy there. She deployed state police in riot gear who have beaten and harassed protesters, hospitalized some, prevented journalists from doing their work there. On the ICE front, we also learned this week that the agency will quit reporting the deaths of newly released detainees. Under the Biden administration, post-release deaths within 30 days were tracked and reported. That will now be done away with. So, they're going to abuse these folks, leave them in poor condition, send them out on the streets. If they die, like we saw this guy up in Buffalo, a few months ago. They just sent him out into the cold, be like, good luck. That death may not have occurred in ICE custody, but it is on their watch. Essentially, this happens often. I don't know, Brandon. The way we handle ICE and detainees and make it all for profit, it gives an incentive for more roundups to occur, for us to incarcerate more people, and that is just part and parcel of what we've been doing in this country for decades.
Yeah, it's the problem with privatized incarceration just in general. It's how slavery is kind of continued in this country. It's constitutionally allowed to continue through prison systems, and ICE is actually kind of abusing that in different ways, because you got to think everything, when you're privatized, everything is about the profit margin, right? So why pay workers to do the labor when you can force the inmates to do it for pennies, right? Why spend exuberant amounts of money for quality food and bedding when you could give them, something you wouldn't even give your pet, right? And you could get away with it, because what's Trump going to do? What's he going to hold you to? And they're blocking Congress members from doing lawful oversight. So there's not even the kind of guidance or oversight that should be had here. And this is why we're seeing the deadliest year in ICE detention history. Already, it's the deadliest period. If you extend it past a year as well, we've had, I think it's upwards close to 60 people. I know last year it was 40 people in 1 year died, which is the most since I started holding people in detention centers. And we should note these are children that are getting held here. Last year, hundreds of Americans were held in these detention centers. George Redis is a veteran. He was held in one of these for 3 days. Ward Sakik is an American. She was held for 180 days. So it's not even if you're just like, oh, well, the immigrants deserve it, which no, they don't. Nobody deserves inhumane treatment, right? But even to that point, like if you want to give that to Republicans, this is happening to Americans too. It's happening to children, right? And you're supposed to be the pro-life party. So there should be standards, even if you're like anti-immigration or whatever. There's no real justification for the way we're treating human beings.
Yeah, hell of a pro-life party we've got there. And to your point, the incentives are completely backwards in this system that we have. Things that should be run for the public benefit are run for profit. Things that should often be public goods become profit centers for well-connected individuals. Those private prison operators, big political donors, right? Something else that should be run for public benefit that we treat as a business, and therefore there are a lot of gaps in the system, is childcare, right? Now, a couple stories here out of our state this week, both from the Capitol Chronicle. By the way, folks, support Indiana Capitol Chronicle. Nikki Kelly and her team over there doing great work. I rely on them so much for all of my Indiana stories. Now, we saw this week 80% of eligible low-income children are not being served by the state's subsidized child care programs. Even after a $200 million infusion of state cash, Indiana's subsidized child care programs will serve less than 20% of eligible low-income children by year's end, leaving roughly 250,000 kids whose families qualify without access. Now, these programs had been closed to new enrollees since December of 2024 after a cash flow crisis. Well, the budget has been replenished somewhat, and Braun put some more money into the system, but still, there are going to be 20,000 plus children on the wait list. And, the $200 million doesn't even begin to cover the full cost of new vouchers over their lifespan. Indiana's total child care spending ranks near the bottom among states. However, its per child spending does rank 9th, suggesting the problem isn't necessarily scale, but efficiency. Where's the money going? Now, one of the ways the governor hopes to address this is by lowering qualification requirements, rescinding regulations for childcare, which he says will boost affordability. Under his proposal, daycare center directors would no longer need bachelor's degrees. Caregivers would only need a high school diploma, and lower level caregivers wouldn't need to have completed high school at all. Other proposed rollbacks including eliminating required lists of learning activities like art, literacy, math, and science, loosening rules on sleeping surfaces and diaper changing tables, and dropping required safety postings and allowing parents to request vaccine exemptions. Brandon, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, well, as someone who's worked in childcare for 10 years now, I worked in schools for the last 2 or 3 years. Anyone who works with children could tell you the last thing we need is lower standards. We need higher standards. People who should not be in the field are already getting hired into the field. And the idea we're going to make it easier for people who have no qualifications, party of merit, by the way, is kind of crazy. Also, to the point of like not enough people being serviced, I looked it up real quick while you were saying that. Zohran Mamdani, who just did a childcare, they're doing childcare in New York with Kathy Hochul, $73 million. That's the cost for that for New York, right? We could fund that by legalizing marijuana and taxing it, right? Something as easy as that. We could fund that by just raising property taxes or income taxes on the wealthiest people in Indiana to comparable levels to surrounding states. So like we could fund childcare in the entirety of the country for less than what Trump is asking for the Iran war. Right? We could do it for 10 years. We could fund childcare for every parent in this country for 10 years for what he's asking for the Iran war. So like the idea that this isn't possible isn't true. It's just that Republicans want to spend the money elsewhere, and then they want to like pretend that, oh, free market is the answer. The free market isn't the answer for things that are necessities, and the free market definitely isn't the answer for things that pertain to people's health or their education, their well-being, because when you lower the standards, right, people are going to see how low they can go on the standard to maximize their profit, and that's not what we want. We want people going higher on the standard and doing that at the expense of profit, which is why childcare should be public and not private, because profit shouldn't be the main thing that people are looking towards.
And they always say, oh, the money isn't there. And these are the people that are supposedly, the best on finances and the best at the budget. But we've seen again and again, there's studies out there, the more money you invest in things like early childhood education, it pays off over the long term over sevenfold in terms of like economic development and people needing less public assistance and their contributions to the economy, and they pay more taxes and so on and so on and so on. It's just very short-sighted, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I just interviewed Sari Kerr. She's a PhD economist. She studies this exact thing, and she's telling me exactly that there's a large portion of people not in the workforce that only aren't there because of caregiving responsibilities, whether it be the cost is too much, like there's a husband and a wife, and for their financial situation, it's better for the wife or the husband to not work because they don't have the money to pay for childcare, or whether it's a single parent who just can't afford childcare to work on their own, whatever it may be. So just in providing that service to people, you're allowing more people into the workforce, which creates more money in the economy, more demand. There's a thing called cash velocity. People who watch my channel know I talk about this all the time. It's the amount that money exchanges hands between business and consumers. Every time money does that, you can tax it. That creates more revenue. So a program like childcare, you're only really funding it the first decade or so, because after that, the gains you see will fund the program itself. Off the people it allows to go in the workforce will create revenue that can fund the program itself.
You've gotten to a fundamental flaw in the neoliberal economic model that we've used in this country since Reagan, and it's that it's top heavy. Yeah. All of the money is concentrated at the top, and it's not moving. It's like, it's fine, I guess. I mean, it's not, but if you want to say it's fine for people to make, gobs and gobs and gobs of money, okay, great. You tax it then, and you get it circulating back through. And right now, it's just not moving. It's all stuck. It's sclerotic. It's like our economy is having a stroke.
Yeah, it's just bad economics. Objectively is bad economics. You would want your economic system to keep money funneling through the economy, because if you don't, you have to artificially replace it. And that bears the need for things like the stimulus, right? Which is inflationary. When you artificially pump money into an economy is what causes inflation, which then leads prices to increase. So if you can create that revenue without artificially pumping money into the economy, that's beneficial to everyone, the wealthy, the people who own the businesses. There's going to be more demand because more people who spend money have money versus just letting people at the top hoard it. What's the point of that?
Yeah, and if you pump all that money into the economy and you don't tax it up at the top, it just gets funneled to the top and the economy gets more and more and more top heavy until it eventually tips over. So I guess let us talk about public health. And, we're talking about childcare, a well-functioning childcare system, I think, in a way, is part of a well-functioning public health system. We've got a couple stories on this route, or on this topic this week, including an Indiana angle here. President Trump is invoking the Defense Production Act to direct $700 million in defense and energy funding to coal plants nationwide, which will include a generating facility down in Sullivan County. Now, this is framed as an affordability measure. However, it will have no impact, of course, on like oil prices, which are driving the current energy crisis. And coal is devastating to the public health in terms of all the particulates that it spews into the atmosphere. I will link a study that details these specifically in the show notes. Those will be available later this afternoon at Progressive Indiana Network. But we saw between 2015 and 2023, emissions from coal plants are estimated to have caused over 16,000 premature deaths, nearly 20,000 emergency visits, over 50,000 new asthma cases, and more than 3 billion lost school days nationwide. Now, moving on from Indiana, way over to the other side of the world in Africa, there's still an Ebola outbreak going on. It is likely far worse than official figures suggest, and it may become the largest Ebola outbreak to date. Also, on the public health front, a pair of National Institute of Health researchers at Montana's Rocky Mountain Biosafety Lab were charged with smuggling deactivated Mpox virus into the United States. That is the virus formerly known as monkeypox. Now, again, these were deactivated viruses, so, that's great. But, we saw Brandon sort of back to the Indiana of it all. Several months ago, it was, I want to say in November, there was an IU researcher that got arrested. This is a Chinese student, was arrested for importing deactivated E. coli bacteria into the country and like declaring them as women's underwear or something in the manifest. I don't know if you saw this.
No.
Yeah, crazy story. Down here, I'm in Bloomington. Some of the professors in that department have still had a hard time getting into their labs because the FBI has been about. But it's crazy. I talked to a Purdue professor, David Sanders, here on Tuesday, and he was one of the first Ebola researchers in this country. Now, he says we as individuals shouldn't really be worried about Ebola exactly like, crossing over into the United States and becoming a large epidemic. It's not really that kind of virus. But just the public health system in this country has been decimated under this Trump administration with RFK and his folks in charge. It's going to take decades potentially to rebuild things, if ever.
Yeah, and they're attacking it from multiple angles too. Like you started on the kind of climate change angle, which is really important. I'm someone who thinks like climate change is the issue right now, right? And a lot of that is health, right? There's like carbon emissions, coal, CO2, things like this have drastic effects to your cardiovascular health, heart health. You're more susceptible even to common viruses. So there's like multiplicative effects from climate change. And in Trump doing away with EPA regulations, doing away with green energy incentives, putting forth coal initiatives, things like you're laying out. Well, that's one attack on public health. Then we have Medicaid, healthcare actually just being defunded. So people aren't going to be able to afford treatments to the same way. They're not going to be able to prevent illnesses from spreading to the same degree. We're defunding medical research, right? So then in terms of preventing future illnesses or finding better ways to combat illnesses, well, we're just studying it less. And that's something nobody should want. We should I think in terms of like government functions, like medical research is like one of the top 3 most important. Like, what else should we want our tax dollars going towards than keeping us all safe, like in terms of our health, something we can't just fight because we're tough or have a big military, right? But then also like another extent of that is he's defunding like, well, vaccines too, I think is important, like spreading vaccine misinformation, but then the global health apparatus. We've pulled out of the World Health Organization. We've defunded USAID, which is projected to lead to millions of deaths by 2030. And then it also, USAID does really good work in terms of stopping viruses from their transmissibility from other countries. Because while we have like a good apparatus to stop something like Ebola is not, like you said, it's not the best example, but like COVID, I guess, right? We might have the money and the resources to stop that from spreading. But like if Africa doesn't and it spreads all over Africa, and then one American goes to Africa or one African comes to America, or, you know, this is any country, right? Then we have another problem. So when you're also defunding USAID at the same time as medical research, at the same time as healthcare, rural hospitals are going to close, climate change, like you're just attacking public health in a way we've never seen before.
It's all interconnected, like you said. You know, the climate change and the virology. We're going to see increased viruses popping off in a hotter world, where, you know, as folks increasingly interact with different species that migrate from different places. They're all connected. Very scary stuff. I want to stay on the public health thread shortly, but move to a tech angle on this. You know, along the lines of, we were talking about the RFK and the Trump administration reducing regulations, right? Well, one of the things that you get is the USDA, and their meat inspection has been defunded. And apparently Texas, where a lot of the U.S. cattle industry is based, has a screwworm problem now. It has been confirmed there in a Texas calf for the first time since 1966. When we thought we had eradicated this thing, well, it broke through the Darien Gap barrier that's down in Panama that had kept it contained to Central America, probably related to climate change. I'm no scientist, but that sounds like what happened there. Before eradication, screwworms kill hundreds of thousands of U.S. cattle annually, and with the U.S. herd already at a 75-year low, a new outbreak could devastate beef prices and the broader agricultural economy. So what are they going to do about it? The USDA wants to release a bunch of sterile screwworm flies to beat it back. They currently need about 400 million of these things. I don't know all the way it works, but they release sterile flies into the world, and they, you know, mate with the females. The females die, or the males die. The females think they're impregnated. They can't lay eggs, or their eggs are unviable, so the populations are reduced that way. I don't know. Again, I'll link it in the show notes. But Google, of all places, wants to do something similar with mosquitoes. In California and Florida, they're requesting permission from the EPA to release up to 32 million sterile male mosquitoes over 2 years as part of its, quote, debug program to suppress disease-spreading mosquito populations. The way it works, and at least with them, is that male mosquitoes infected with a naturally occurring bacteria can't produce viable offspring with the wild females, and it shrinks the population each successive generation. This has worked to great effect in Singapore, apparently. I don't know what kind of long-term benefit, or, you know, knock-on effects you could potentially see from these sort of things. You know, again, these things have been held to great effect. I don't know down the line if there are unintended consequences we're not thinking about yet. But Brandon, like, what's Google doing this? Isn't that outside of their area of expertise?
Yeah, it sounds weird. I don't know a lot about it. It feels odd. If like a big tech company is behind it, it makes me a bit suspect. I think that intervening just in like ecosystems feels, should we do that? You know, like, do we really know what we're messing with? So I don't know. I don't know enough about it to comment too much. I do think, again, when a corporation that doesn't care very much about the environment through their past history is on the side of something like this, maybe we should all be sketchy about it. That's what I would have to say.
Yeah, well, like staying on tech, and speaking of tech hubris, right? This is bringing it more closer to home, and what we've been talking about for a lot the last several months in this space are these data centers. Now up in Indianapolis, the city county council this week voted to remove counselors' home addresses from required public ethics disclosure forms. This is after shots were fired at the house of city county councilor Ron Gibson, who has supported the controversial Martindale Brightwood data center there. A sign saying, quote, "No data centers" was left on his doorstep. I wish Sam was still here for this, because a lot of folks in that community think that whole event was staged. I'd be interested to hear her take. But one thing you cannot fake is Shelbyville Mayor Scott Ferguson this week was caught on camera telling a group of women that a no data centers yard sign in his community only appear in, quote, "shitty houses." And when corrected that these are working class homes, the mayor doubled down, saying, quote, "most of them are rentals." So, very, very unkempt. Now, he offered a non-apology statement that he regrets his choice of words that may cause offense. He claims he was only referring to property maintenance and not people's character. The city council there approved a plan to turn 429 acres of Shelbyville farmland into a massive 11-building data center complex over the objections of more than 2,000 petition signers and a room full of angry constituents there. Again, this contempt fits a pattern across central Indiana, where community leaders approve these data centers while dismissing or ignoring the opposition of their constituents.
Yeah, I think AI is bad. There's data to show why just AI usage in and of itself isn't as beneficial as a lot of people try to pretend it is. It just causes like dependence, right? And then data centers, which is the result of the popularity or blasting off of AI or whatever, are just terrible. They're terrible for the environment. They don't create a lot of jobs. They put unnecessary pressure on energy grids, which cause prices to go up. And again, they also, I covered AOC, showing water from a neighborhood from one of these data centers, and it was brown, right? We're talking the effects on the environment are dangerous, and you're not even these data centers can be ran with 5 or 6 people. So you're not creating jobs, you're not creating economic relief. So I don't get the argument for them necessarily, especially with how harmful they are. But it's funny that that he would say only bad people are against data centers. The CEOs and the people standing to profit are the only good people in America.
Typical Republican mindset there, and ironically, I would bet a whole lot of those people who he is disparaging probably voted for him, which just shows the hubris with which these people operate. Funny story. You're like, who's in favor of these things? At the Democratic convention yesterday in the state, it was forwarded a motion to include a data center moratorium in the party platform. That failed. It failed because organized labor didn't want any part of it. Organized labor is very much in favor of these data centers because they want to build them. Now, that's fine. These are temporary, good jobs temporarily while they're building these things. But to what you said, they employ, 2 people in a Roomba once they're up and running.
That's weird that labor would be for that. Because you got to think construction, sure, you're going to create jobs in the construction of it, but then these data centers, and we've already seen it lead to some layoffs, they can fill the requirement or the duties of hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, given the size of the data center, while again, only employing 5. So you're losing labor in the long run. But, and again, I'm someone who thinks that's second or third in terms of issues. First is it does drastic effects to the environment. It's going to destroy the water, the clean water supply around it. And it has long-term effects on just air quality, things like this. And then energy prices, right? We're already paying too much for energy. We should probably nationalize it if I'm being real. And this is only going to drive those costs up. And people are going to it's rocket ships and feathers, right? And economics. prices shoot up real fast because of things like this, but it takes a long time to bring them back down. So we should be worried about things like data centers that are going to cause those effects without a lot of benefits to back it.
It's disappointing from the organized labor, and I think it's short-sighted, right? I get it why they want the construction jobs up front, but yeah, where's the solidarity with the workers who are going to be displaced by the AI, right? It's very
major
myopic,
unions?
in my opinion.
Is it like the
Major unions?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, like the electricians, pipe fitters, building trades all want these data centers because these are massive construction projects that employ a lot of people, at least in the short term.
Yeah, it just feels like to me like this is why, you know, the better trade-off would be like green energy, right? Biden did a massive infrastructure bill that was focused on climate change that led to him creating millions of jobs. So it's like we can do this in ways, and those are jobs that are permanent, right? Like it's not like, oh, construction only jobs, because then you need people to like keep up the infrastructure. So like when you're talking about data centers, that's like, you'll be employed for 6 months and then we're all screwed. Like that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. We should definitely be using organized labor for sure, 100%, building things that are useful, like wind, like solar, like high-speed rail, like climate mitigation projects. That's what we should be doing if we were a sane society. Speaking of things that are insane, it is crazy that a story like this is buried way down here at the end of the show, but, you know, flood the zone, right? So much else going on. We've only got a few minutes here to talk about what's going on at CBS right now. We were just talking about tech and tech overlord Larry Ellison and his Nepo baby kid David recently purchased Paramount. They're in the process of purchasing Warner Brothers Discovery, creating this giant media conglomerate. On top of it all, these folks are radical ultra-Zionists and installed one of their own, Bari Weiss, to put her editorial imprint on CBS News, which was very much, I think, of any of the brands, a giant in the independent journalism space. You got Edward Murrow, you got Dan Rather, you got Walter Cronkite, and you can add maybe to that mix now Scott Pelley, who was fired this week from 60 Minutes after publicly calling out editor-in-chief Bari Weiss for murdering 60 Minutes. He was summoned into a meeting with Weiss, the new executive producer of 60 Minutes, Nick Bilton, and CBS News president Tom Sabrowski. Bilton's termination email called Monday's confrontation, quote, an ambush and a performative display of hostility, saying Pelley had hijacked his first staff meeting to disparage him and his qualifications and his intentions. Pelley told the Times before being fired that he had been pressured to insert bias into his stories, calling the, quote, collapse of values at the top untenable, and afterwards said, quote, I have been in combat in Afghanistan, I have been in combat in Iraq, I have been in a war zone in Ukraine multiple times, risking my life because of my devotion to the broadcast. And despite all of those things and his integrity, they fired him because he would not go along with, lying and obfuscating the truth to benefit Bari Weiss, the Ellisons, Israel, and their larger project.
Yeah, it shows more again how conservatives control media in this country, even the quote unquote liberal medias, which is it's a bit of like, I think, political science for people, you know, like both parties obviously have their wings. There's conservative Democrats. We've been complaining about a lot of them during this panel. There's progressive Democrats, but then also on Republicans, it's less pronounced, right? But there's like liberal, quote unquote, Republicans, not so much liberal anymore, more moderate, maybe centrist Republicans. And then there's like conservative Republicans. But what we're seeing is even in the media that is quote unquote Democrat media, it's conservatives that control that. We don't really have progressives or liberals, left voices controlling these mainstream medias, like billionaires own CNN, right? So they'll run Biden bad, they'll run even Trump bad because they're pro-Democrat, but they're not going to talk about like wage theft. They're not going to talk about corporations or things like that because conservatives and corporate influence back them. And it's the same with places like CBS with Bari Weiss specifically. Obviously, she's super pro-Israel. She's going to throw a lot of money behind those kinds of talks. talking points. So then those who are more liberal on that kind of topic get pushed out. And we see that across the board, which is kind of why, I started my own YouTube channel and why I'm sure you have your own as well, because it's frustrating with a lot of these media stations that even the ones that are supposed to represent us don't really.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not like corporate news like CBS was ever, to what you said, like super progressive in any way. They were just, largely sort of down the middle, right? In terms of their editorial bent, especially the journalists more so, the ones that do push back, run into management from time to time. There are always the financial and advertiser angles that you have to look at in these things. But this myth of a liberal media was always just that, a myth. These companies have always had a capitalist incentive to tell the stories that they tell from the angle that they tell it.
Yeah, and because if you look at it, like the closest I think we've ever had would be like MSNBC, MS Now, because they did have like the Mehdi Hassans, they had like the Joy Reids, but then even then, neither of those people work for MSNBC anymore, right? They were never given like prime time slots. Mehdi Hassan specifically was kicked off for his I don't know if it was technically pro-Palestine, if it was one of the other countries, but for being against like the American imperialist agenda, essentially. So it's like none of these medias are really representing left spaces as much as they are like liberal centrist spaces at best, right? But then you have a capitulation to conservatives every step of the way. And Bari Weiss is just like the newest kind of carnation of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. None of these networks ever really challenged empire. Both Mehdi Hassan and Joy Reid and plenty of other of these folks that have been booted from their networks have found homes on places like Substack, have built impressive independent platforms where they actually get a chance to tell the truth, and they're supported by subscribers. Hey, we could use your help, supporters and subscribers. But they've, you know what? I would not be surprised at all to see Pelley find much success doing something very similar himself. So, final story this week, and kind of a lighter note, maybe not as important in the grand scheme of thing, but this week the Chicago Bears board of directors voted to advance their stadium development project in Hammond, Indiana. This is the most concrete step yet toward the team leaving Illinois after a 5-year stadium saga. Now, the state of Indiana lured them with a sweetheart deal. The Bears will contribute $2 billion to this stadium project, but they will get to keep all of the stadium revenue, all of the game day concession sales, all of the parking, all of the money generated by this thing, and they can buy the stadium itself back for $1 after 40 years, after Indiana taxpayers have paid off the bonds on the thing. Now, Governor Braun celebrated this. However, Illinois officials insist it's still not over, noting the Bears don't even have a final Hammond site yet. Shovels are not in the ground. An NFL source said there is still a lot of ball game left to play for Illinois. Their state legislature wrapped up this week without passing a incentive package for the Bears to stay at their preferred location. They want to move out to suburban Arlington Heights. Brandon, what do you think? Is this thing a done deal? Are the Bears actually moving to Indiana? Do you even want to see this? What do you think of the public stadium subsidies in general?
Yeah. So I have to admit, I haven't followed the story extremely close because, I like a real sport like basketball and I'm just kidding. But, go Knicks. No, I do not follow football as much as basketball. So this one did miss me a bit in terms of like how close it seems to be or how much closer it is since the last time I checked in on it. It's weird. Like, I'm against subsidies for public stadiums generally. I think it's a bad thing. There is something to be said about when it's bringing revenue, when it's bringing tourism. For some cities, it makes sense, right? If you're talking about like New York City that makes billions from tourism and such, maybe there's an argument there. For Indiana, I don't think there's as much of an argument, especially when, as you're saying, like, we're not getting the revenue and they can just buy it back or whatever. It seems to be a bit self-defeating to me. And then it's like, I don't know. It's just like, we played the Bears in the Super Bowl, and how dare we let them come to our state now?
Listen, I grew up in Northwest Indiana. I am a Bears fan, and I hate this. I just, as a taxpayer, this is a bad use of public funds. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. The family, the McCaskies that own the Bears now, are fabulously wealthy. Now, again, all their money is tied up in the team. It's not like some of these other teams where it's like a private equity billionaire comes in and buys it after the founding family has sold it. This is the descendants of the founder, George Halas, and his family. Listen, if you don't have the capital that you need to build a stadium, sell shares. Do something. The public shouldn't be paying for any of these things. It pains me to say it. I hate to say it, but the best owner in professional sports when it comes to this is Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, who paid for his own damn stadium. Can't stand the guy. Hate the Cowboys. But that is how it should be done. Or like the Packers. God, again, as a Bears fan, pains me to say, but the Packers do it right. That team is publicly owned. They are grandfathered in. No other team can have such a business model. The Packers are the only ones allowed to operate like that. I think all teams should be publicly owned. I think that'd be a great idea.
I also want to add, I maybe haven't seen this story as much because as a New York Giants fan, to the extent that I do like football, I've been protesting football because my quarterback decided to go on stage and hug Donald Trump. So it's tears anytime I think about football right now.
Oh, and he might have hugged Donald Trump, but Donald Trump, I fucked him. Oh my God. Such a handsome man. Looks like a model. It's so beefy. Just want to touch him.
And I don't know what it is about Trump nowadays, but he's been doing that. I don't know. He gave a speech to farmers the other day, and there's an Olympian in some sport sitting next to him. And he's like, this guy's legs are like tree trunks and all of this. And I'm like, what are we talking about right now?
They're very great. Listen, we talked about way at the beginning of the show how a lot of these anti-queer Republicans are secretly closet cases. Trump says a lot of gay shit, man.
He does.
So listen, I'm glad we had a chance to go out with a laugh. Brandon, why don't you tell the folks how they can find you on YouTube and elsewhere?
Yeah. I mainly do just YouTube, Social Society with Brandon Clark. It's Social Society W/Brandon Clark. YouTube, we post 4 videos a day. I'm a progressive. We talk about politics. I slam MAGA, all that kind of stuff. We do clips on like Instagram and TikTok. Both of those are Social Society also. So like I'm pretty easy to find across the board. I have a Substack, which you can find from my YouTube. I post there every once in a while. I had a podcast for a while. We were posting there, but it's kind of on pause. So right now, the best place to find me is definitely YouTube, where we're posting every day. And I want to say thank you so much for the opportunity, letting me come on, and apologies for being 7 or 8 minutes late or so.
Listen, I think all of us had our own various technical problems today. The powers that be did not want this show to go off, but we pulled through and I think had a great show. It has been a pleasure to have you. It was great to have Sam on. So let's talk about what else is going on in Progressive Indiana Network this week. Oh, yes.
I want to give just one quick shout out. Shout out Zeke, because that's my guy and he's been here the whole show. So appreciate you, Zeke. So yeah, go on.
Zeke is here every week. Love Zeke. Great comments. Yes. Always love to see you. Thank you so much for subscribing and being here with us every week, and for supporting Brandon as well. So Tuesday night, I will be back, and I bet I'll see Zeke in the comments there too, because Zeke's a friggin' champ. But Tuesday night, I will be live at 7 p.m. with State Senate candidate, District 6 candidate, and former WWE wrestler Caitlin Holly. She will be here on Who's Left Live on Thursday, every Thursday morning, bright and early. Concerned Clergy with Reverend Tony Alexander and Pastor David Green. Friday, Derek Holder will have a new episode of Hold 'em Accountable. Hopefully, we will see Brianna back with the recovered Republican soon. She just had surgery. Everybody send her good vibes online. Lots going on. Please, again, follow us on social media. You will find me on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads at whosleft.us and on Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at Who's Left. Send me a DM on any of those with your feedback, tips, ideas, concerns, whatever. Email me directly at scott@whosleft.us. I want to hear from you. And please support Progressive Indiana Network with a paid subscription at progressiveindiana.net and follow us all on social media at the full spelled out name on most sites, but on Blue Sky and TikTok, it is PIN Indiana. Once again, thank you, Brandon. Thanks to Samantha Douglas for being here earlier. Be sure to subscribe to the Black Briefing on YouTube as well. Like, share, comment, leave a review for us and for them. Let's keep building a radically democratic Indiana together. Until next time, I'm Scott Aaron Rogers signing off from Bloomington. Love each other, Indiana.